maybe it's not just Joe Joyce who might decide to pivot and go in a different direction. Maybe Daniel Dubois has other options as well. So we've seen Joseph Parker's manager, David Higgins, come out and say that he'd be open to putting Parker in against Daniel Dubois in an eliminator for, ranking with the WBO. Dubois is currently number 3, Parker's number 2, Usyk is mandatory. Well, who's going to be the mandatory after them? Maybe we will see Parker versus Dubois for that mandatory spot. It all depends on how confident Frank Warren is in Daniel Dubois at the moment, because he's acting like he'd put him in with anybody in the world other than Fury and Wilder right now. If that's the case, then, well, you might as well go for the Parker fight then, Frank. You might as well talk to the WBO, who Frank Warren is very, very close to and has been for decades, and say, make that fight. Because from a resume point of view and from a ranking point of view, it makes far more sense than the Joe Joyce fight does right now. And you can then build Joe Joyce up separately, because whoever takes a loss in the Joyce-Dubois fight, it's going to set them back a few steps. And of course, if it's Joyce who takes the loss, it's going to be more difficult for him to rebuild because of his age, right? So rather than having one of your heavyweights take several steps back, why not let Joyce go and fight Hrgović and have Dubois fight Joseph Parker in a WBO eliminator? Again, it all comes down to whether Frank Warren is as confident in Daniel Dubois as he says he is. Now, personally, any of those fights are great. Joyce versus Hrgović, great. Joyce versus Dubois, great. Dubois versus Hrgović, Dubois versus Joseph Parker, very intriguing. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is the inexperience of Daniel Dubois. Joseph Parker, as we all know, former world champion, been in there against Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz, Dylan White, etc., etc. So he has competed at the very, very highest level. And although he's lost to the likes of AJ and White, I mean, they were competitive fights. It's not like he's ever been totally dominated and blown out of the water. No, always been competitive, even in his losses. So how would Daniel Dubois cope with him right now with Joseph Parker's speed and his movement and his agility and all that kind of stuff, his experience? Be very interesting. Is Daniel Dubois going to suffer the same fate as Anthony Yarde, for example, if he's put in at the top level too soon? Because he hasn't really had any intermediary fights yet. I guess that's what they're looking to do, putting him in against Joe Joyce. That's a great fight for Daniel Dubois right now. And actually, Martin Bakole is also a great fight for him. Those are the kind of fights that he needs to prepare him for the next step when he takes on the Joseph Parkers, the Dylan Whites, and all those kind of people. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. And in this particular interview here, which he's just done today, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but at one point in the interview, he said, if the fight with Joe Joyce happens, not when, if. So maybe him and his people are looking at other options, perhaps the Joseph Parkers of the world. And who else is in the WBO rankings that he could fight in an eliminator? Kalnaki's tied up. Are they talking to Ruiz? Would they go for that fight? I personally doubt it. I think that that's a risky fight. I mean, if Ruiz was at number 2 or mandatory, they might go for it, but he's actually below Dubois in the rankings. So I don't know whether to go for that. And other than that, who have you got? Chisora, well, we know Dubois has been looking to fight him, but Chisora probably going to fight Usyk, it would seem at the moment. Below, you got Hrgović. I can't see Dubois fighting him at the moment. Schwartz, maybe, but he is way, way below Dubois. And Joyce, of course, we know all about him. Maybe Zhang. That's the kind of person who Frank Warren might target for Dubois. He's in at number 10. Romanov, of course, that's the guy who knocked out Deontay Wilder in the amateurs. Would be surprised if Frank Warren put Dubois in with him. Why give the guy an opportunity to take Dubois' number 3 slot when he doesn't need the opportunity? So, yeah, we'll see what happens here, people. Again, as long as Dubois is fighting somebody in a very competitive fight, like a Joyce, a Hrgović, a Bakole, even a Parker, I'm happy. Yeah, but I would prefer him to see him fight, excuse me, a Joyce, a Bacoli, etc. before stepping up to somebody like Parker. Let me know what you think in the comments, people. It's Hatman, I'm out.